Welcome back, everybody, to Toronto Today here on the Parlay. I'm your host, Luca Rosano, alongside my co-host, Michael Singh, and we are back with another great edition of this show. In today's show, we're going to talk about the Leafs. Their matchup is tonight against the Wild. We're then going to look ahead to some Leafs player prop bets, followed by some rumors that's been going around in Blue Jays land with, of course, the lockout still happening. And then we're going to get into some Blue Jays World Series odds. It's never too early to start talking about that. And then followed by that, we're going to have our best bets of the night. But let's first pick it up here at the top. Leafs Wild tonight. Leafs trying to snap that 3-game losing streak, their first 3-game skid since late October. And you look at the Leafs, they are actually going to be minus 155 on the money line. And the Leafs coming into this one, just 2-5 straight up in their last 7 games. Like I mentioned, they've lost 3 in a row. But they've been a force to be reckoned with at home this season. They're 7-1 straight up in their last 8 games at Scotiabank Arena and 18-5-1 overall. Let's go back to those odds. Leafs minus 155. Are you surprised by those odds going into this matchup?
Yes and no. Yes, because the Leafs are obviously in some really bad form right now. Right? They're not playing good hockey. Obviously, the teams that they've lost to are Columbus, Montreal, St. Louis. But even as you mentioned, they've won 2 of their last 7 games, so it's not been like a short sample size. They'll also be without Jake Muzzin once again. And on the other hand, the Wild, they're no pushovers when it comes to playing against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Minnesota are 10-4 in their last 14 games against the Maple Leafs. But then you start looking at a couple other things, and one being, of course, Minnesota's recent form. They were on fire over the last month, but recently they've dropped 3 of their last 4, including a loss to the Ottawa Senators. And when you're losing to Ottawa Senators, I mean, you can talk about Montreal and Columbus, but Ottawa's kind of in that same category of teams you definitely don't want to be losing to. So Minnesota has kind of cooled off after what has been sort of a red hot last month. But they're still 12-5 straight up over the last 17 games. So something to be wary of.
Yeah.
But then diving even further into the numbers now, Luca, the Wild are a really good home team, 16-4-1 at home, but they're just 15-10-2 on the road. And the Leafs, on the other hand, they're a force to be reckoned with on home ice. Those couple losses that we talked about, Columbus and Montreal, they were both away from home. And the Leafs are actually 18-5-1 at Scotiabank Arena this season, 7-1 straight up in their last 8 games at home. So, when you dive into the numbers, you kind of realize exactly why the Leafs are favored the way they are. So I'm not necessarily surprised. But the Leafs quite often are pretty dominant favorites when it comes to all of their matchups, and they haven't been a good bet because of that. Because you're not really getting good value for the Leafs on the money line and on the puck line. They're actually one of the worst teams in the league at covering that puck line. I think there's something like 20 and 40 or 20 and 30, something along those lines, but not very good at covering the puck line. So it's unfortunate, but a lot of people are betting on the Leafs because they are the meta of the hockey universe, and that kind of adds up in all this way. But I do think, if we're going to make a prediction quickly, I do think the Leafs are going to find a way to win this game and get back on track because they're so good at home ice. You add in the fact that fans will be back there, and I think the Leafs find a way to pull this one off.
Yeah, I mean, the Wild have been hot. They're 12-5 straight up in their last 17 games overall. So they've been playing much better hockey. But I agree with you, Mike. I think being back at home with the added element of the fans there, I think that's going to be enough to rally this group to get a win under their belt. And they need one right now. They're making the headlines for all the wrong reasons. They obviously are looking at that upcoming NHL deadline to see what they can do. Jake Muzzin being out is really going to hurt this team now. They got to come through with a win here. They have to take care of business and take advantage of a Wild team that they've been really good in these night games. I mean, they've won 9 of their last 9 night games, but playing in Toronto where they've had success, you hope the Leafs can get fueled by that home crowd and get a win here. I mean, if they don't, there's going to be so much more talk about if this team is legitimate or not. Is it time to hit the panic button? Should this team really look to make a move? But if they win tonight in sound fashion, I think some of those comments for now go away. But yeah, I agree with you. I think the Maple Leafs will win this. I wouldn't touch them on the puck line. I'd probably just take them straight up on the money line, where there's not really any value there, which has been the theme with Leafs games all season. And yeah, this is just one of those games where if you are feeling the Leafs downhill slump, it wouldn't hurt to take the Wild.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see they've got a bona fide, like the Wild's roster, very mediocre. I mean, you look at their names, their roster. There's no one that really stands out besides maybe a Matt Dumba, and then they also have this kid who has been taking the league by storm. He kind of appeared out of nowhere. That's Kirill Kaprizov, and he's actually one of the most exciting young up and coming players to watch. He earned himself a massive deal in the offseason. I think he's getting paid somewhere around $9 million a year. And this guy has lived up to the expectations. He's scoring at over a point per game pace. And just his style of play is really fun to watch. So he's someone to keep an eye on tonight for the Minnesota Wild. But other than that, like I said, it's a bunch of people who didn't really make it on other teams' rosters that have come together and sort of shocked the league. I'd say the Wild are probably one of the more surprising teams in the NHL this season, based on the way that they are playing and where they are in the NHL standings so far. And you think of guys like Matt Zuccarello, who's kind of bounced back and he's having a hell of a year. And this is a guy who never really panned out too much in the New York Rangers organization there, but he goes to Minnesota. He finds some success. You have a guy like Ryan Hartman, same thing with Chicago, and I think he was also on Nashville. Never really panned out in either of those cities, but he comes to Minnesota and he's having sort of a breakout year. And if you go down the list, and Joel Eriksson Ek, like, again, random names you never really pay attention to here in the Toronto market, at least, but these are guys that have clicked this season. And it's going to be, I think this is the first time, it is the first time we're going to be playing Minnesota in over 2 years, because obviously last year they had that all-Canadian division. So it's a team I guess we don't see very often. I'm not sure if that plays a factor into the way that people will bet tonight. But I still believe, maybe it's biased in me, but I think that the Leafs will take care of business tonight, because it's one of those games that I think they need to step up and make a statement.
Yeah, I agree. So moving on now, do you like any particular Leafs player props for tonight?
Yeah, so one thing I highlighted here on the rundown is the first goal scorer prop. And this one's interesting because it's not easy to predict, but you get really good value. And I feel like for a team like the Maple Leafs that are so top heavy, it is a little bit better to predict. So Luca, let me just go through the list here. We got Austin Matthews at plus 750. He's got like the best odds, of course, because it's Austin Matthews. He's leading the race for the Rocket Richard, or he's at least second in the Rocket Richard race, and he's one of the best goal scorers, if not the best goal scorer in the league. So plus 750 to score and open the scoring first. So that's not too bad. But then going down, you have someone like a Kirill Kaprizov, who I just mentioned. He's at plus 1200. So if you think the Minnesota Wild will score first, he's not a bad show to find the back of the net. And moving along, and look at some of the depth pieces, I guess, in the Maple Leafs here. William Nylander, who is a guy who needs to get back on track, at plus 1400. Let's see if maybe he comes out. He had a lot of chances last game, as you mentioned, and similar in that boat is John Tavares. He's riding a Leaf career high, I guess, in goalless games without a goal. I think he's at 9 or 10 games right now, and he's plus 1400 to open the scoring. And same with Mitch Marner, plus 1400, and then Michael Bunting kind of rounding out that top line there at plus 1600. Another player probably worth highlighting, I actually don't have the odds in front of me right now. I'm going to see if I can pull them up quickly, but that's Andre Kasha. So news actually broke this morning that Kasha was bumped up to the second line there alongside John Tavares and William Nylander. So I want to see if maybe this is the guy that can kind of get going. And I'm just looking here, his goals, he's at plus 1200 now. So I think that line has kind of shifted already in Kasha's favor because of the movement. But he's going to be a guy who hopefully can spark that second line, because as I mentioned, Nylander, Tavares, they both need something to kind of get going there. And William Nylander, especially, John Tavares as well, but Alex Kerfoot moves down to that third line And we'll see kind of how that plays out overall. It's something maybe we can see a little bit more of in the postseason because we know Cash is a guy who can slide kind of up and down the lineup. So we'll see if this spark works by Sheldon Keefe. I know something kind of needed to change on that second line.
Yeah, those Tavares and Nylander odds are very tempting, as you alluded to. They had so many chances last game, so I would look at something like that of being a very good value pick. I mean, at plus 1400, you can't go wrong. Would it make sense to go with Matthews just because of how low those odds are? I mean, he has been a safe bet, but yeah, if you're looking for value, I look at one of those two players in particular, and you can even throw in a Marner too if you want to look out. Just pick your choice out of those three.
Yeah, you don't even have to stick to one, right? With the odds that are this high, you can sprinkle a couple bucks on each guy and you'll still walk away at the profit if one of the 3 or 4 guys you sprinkle some bucks on hit because of the value here that you're getting. So always something I like kind of betting on when it comes to hockey. I know we've talked about in the past how much both of us don't really like betting on hockey because there's so much parity, it's so unpredictable, and that is where I've found a little bit of value. So something to keep an eye on, and hopefully we're back here tomorrow talking about a Leafs win and the Leafs in a more positive light than we have been the last couple of shows.
Yeah, the highlight of the Leafs the last couple of shows have been player prop bets, cashing in or not. So yeah, hopefully that narrative changes. And if you do bet, hopefully your bet does cash in. All right, I want to talk about something very interesting now. It's been making headways amongst Blue Jays fans, and that is Freddie Freeman. There has been a lot of speculation that Freddie Freeman will not be returning to the Atlanta Braves, which is huge. He just won a World Series with them. And the Braves did reportedly offer Freeman a contract worth $135 million over 5 years. But the slugger not only wants more money, but he's also looking to add an additional 6th year. So you look at Freddie Freeman, he's 32 years old. He's a gold glover. This dude would boost any team that he joins. And amongst those rumors that are going on right now, it's looking like the Blue Jays might have a shot at this thing, along with, of course, the New York Yankees, who are always in contention anytime a big name is reportedly set to look at his options. So, what's the likelihood here of Freddie Freeman going to the Blue Jays? And you would have to think if the Blue Jays somehow did make this big of a splash, their already decent World Series odds would drastically increase.
Yeah, so I mean, I would say it's legitimate. I heard these rumblings long before this lockout
Yeah.
happened, and I know the Jays definitely had interest in finding a way to bring Freddie Freeman to Toronto, which is kind of cool because a lot of people don't realize this, but Freddie Freeman's Canadian. Both of Freddie Freeman's parents were born actually in Ontario. His mother's from Peterborough, while his dad's from Windsor. And I know Freddie Freeman kind of holds both a U.S. and American citizenship, but I think he's talked fondly of Canada in the past, and kind of cool that kind of it could potentially, I guess, come full circle there. Freddie Freeman finds a way back to the Jays, especially at this point in his career. This is a guy who's fresh off winning a World Series with the Atlanta Braves, and he addresses a major need for the Jays. Of course, that would be a left-handed bat in the lineup, and something that the Jays management have talked about quite frequently is that they wanted to add a left-handed bat into this lineup. So just reading in between the cards here, the Jays have yet to do that. Freddie Freeman has been rumored to go to them, obviously, before the lockout. They can't make any moves during the lockout, and he's still at an impasse right now with the Atlanta Braves and Chipper Jones, for example. A lot of people are coming out and talking about how Freddie Freeman is not going to return to Atlanta. People are saying the Yankees are also in the mix, which of course any kind of baseball player growing up dreams of playing for the Yankees. But with this Jays team in the position that they are right now, how exciting that they are, Freddie Freeman's ties to Canada, I think you have to like the Jays' chances here of kind of landing a bona fide superstar, one of the best bats in the league in Freddie Freeman. That would make their lineup, if it's not already, it would make their lineup easily the best one in Major League Baseball. Freddie Freeman's he's slashing right now, 295, 384, 509 OPS there. And he should play well at the Rogers Center because he's done that in the past. He's a guy who's, let me just pull up his numbers here at the Rogers Center. So 11 games at the Rogers Center. He owns a 1,200 OPS through 47 at-bats with 2 doubles, 5 home runs, and 12 RBIs. So that's ridiculous numbers. For context, Vladdy had about a 1,000 OPS last season. So Freddie Freeman's definitely likes playing at the Rogers Center already. We know it's kind of a hitter-friendly ballpark. And just the more I talk about this, the more excited I kind of get about this whole ordeal. The one kind of reservation I guess I have about this is you bring in Freddie Freeman. He's the best, one of the best first basemen in the league. He's going to be playing first base. Can Vladdy slide over to third base? That would kind of be how this team would have to handle it if Freddie Freeman did come to Toronto, and I wonder if they're comfortable with that.
I think it's a good problem to have. I mean, anytime you can capture one of the best left-handed batters in all of baseball, a guy who's going to instantly boost your team's odds, you make it work. So I think the Blue Jays wouldn't be too concerned about that. I think they have a legitimate shot, like you said, of getting Freddie Freeman. If he, in fact, becomes available, I would put the Jays up there with the Yankees as a team that can snag him. And there's a lot of familiarity already with Freeman. Like you said, his parents were born here. He's had great numbers at Rogers Center. He realizes that the Blue Jays are not far off from contending and competing for a World Series. He's at a point in his career where he just wants to be in a position to win World Series, especially after tasting his first one with the Braves. I think this is going to come down to either being the Blue Jays or the Yankees, and whoever can capture Freeman will be my favorite to come out of this division and my favorite in the AL. I mean, we saw the type of campaign he had with the Braves, not only during the regular season, but how clutch he was in the postseason. That is a guy you add to this Jays lineup that's already arguably the best offense in all of baseball. It could be good night for the opposition. I mean, you add in the Jays pitching that obviously needs to take that next step, but from an offensive perspective, there would be virtually no flaws on this Jays team. So if the Jays have an opportunity, I say green lights all around, go for it and try to maximize the value of winning now with this group and these young guys who are blossoming right before your very eyes. So I'm very excited about it too. And I did hear these rumors actually, like, I would say a month after the Braves won the World Series, there was already talk that Freeman was going to be on the move. And the Blue Jays were kind of that first team, I want to say, even before the Yankees, that were that big rumor destination for Freeman. It was in December that I saw a report in particular. It was a rumor at that time, but it was gaining so much steam that Freeman was going to go to the Blue Jays. And since then, it's cooled off, obviously, with the lockout and all that. So, yeah, we'll see if this happens. His days in Atlanta could be outnumbered.
Yeah, it would be a game changer and a positive move overall for the Jays. I know that they were, according to Jeff Passan at least, that they were in on Corey Seager, who got that mammoth 10-year, I think $325 or $350 million contract from Texas. But the Jays were in on that player. So
Yeah.
that tells you kind of where the Jays mindset is, and they know the opportunity that they have in front of them with this team. I don't know if you're ever going to get a team as good as they are in the next couple of years. So they know their window to win and capitalize on all of this is right now. You're not having to play Vladdy too much yet. You're not going to have to pay Bo too much yet.
Yeah.
They have the budget to add a legitimate superstar to this lineup, and Freddie Freeman kind of checks a lot of those boxes. And especially, I keep going back to that left-handed bat. I just think that's so important in this lineup. So let's say hypothetically, Luca, they do get Freddie Freeman here. The Jays last night, they were at plus 1,100 to win the World Series. For context, the best odds are the Dodgers at plus 600. Jays add Freddie Freeman. What do you think happens to those odds?
Oh, I think they prove dramatically. I think, yeah, if you think that's going to happen, jump on those plus 1,100 odds because Jay's adding Freeman. I think they're going to be amongst one of the favorites. I wouldn't put them ahead of the Dodgers, but they would be, I think, top three best World Series odds if they do land Freeman. I mean, you already see the type of respect they're getting now with this young, talented team. You add a proven winner in Freeman and arguably the best left-handed bat in the majors. There's no reason why you couldn't look at this Jays team as one of the favorites to win the World Series if this move actually happens. Now, the same thing is going to be said about the Yankees if they could get Freeman. So I think this splash will very much change those odds that currently sit at plus 1100. And I believe I said this in a show previously where I was quite surprised that the Jays had this good odds, just given that they haven't been a team that's proven it yet in the postseason. But this just speaks volumes to the type of respect they're getting from odds makers, because they saw what this team did a year ago. And they know that if this team perhaps got into the playoff picture with the way their bats were clicking, that could have been a team that made an improbable run. Everybody was talking about the Rays, but this Jays team could have been that team that took that next step. So now the Jays have everybody's attention, and this is a team that could very well put the league on notice. So everybody's expecting this team to make that next step. But yeah, if Freeman goes to the Jays, I expect them to be one of the favorites.
Yeah, I agree with you. And actually, I just pulled up the odds this morning, and it's crazy how much I think that the rumors alone kind of leveraged the Jays here, and they're now tied for the Astros with the second best odds to win the World
There you go.
Series, plus
There you go.
850. The Dodgers plus 600, the Yankees plus 1,000. So the line's already
Wow.
starting to move. If you got in at plus 1,100, I'm sure you're pretty content regardless of what happens. You can walk away saying that was a good bet that you made. But we'll see kind of how this scenario plays out. And if, let's say, hypothetically, knock on wood, Freddie Freeman doesn't arrive in Toronto, let's see if those odds drop back down again, because I think this news, these rumblings kind of shift those. I think a lot of people saw that and they're like, okay, if Freddie Freeman goes to the Jays odds are going to be way higher. Let me get on in this now, as you're kind of alluding to there, Luca. And I think that's already happened. That's already transpired. So it's crazy how much the media and stuff and the hype can affect sort of the market here. And
Yeah.
I still think 8 plus 850, that's not bad value for the direction and the trend that this team is heading right now.
Yeah, that's insane. And that's a really good point. A lot of people in the past would wait for a rumor to happen and then they would place their bet. But now, yeah, the odds makers, they're not dumb. They know of the rumblings that are going on, and that is factoring these odds most definitely. And just to quickly go outside of this scenario and bring in some other examples, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but something that pops to mind are the Broncos Super Bowl chances. You look at their odds, and they were, I believe, I believe they're within the top 10, and that was drastically influenced by Aaron Rodgers and the rumors of him possibly going to Denver. And then another example were the Philadelphia 76ers. They were actually an example where if you struck correctly and you got in on that futures bet right a week before the NBA trade deadline, you actually got pretty good value with them. But now that they got James Harden, they have really good, their odds have improved. So it wouldn't be as good of a value if you bet on them now. So yeah, it just goes to show that we're not the only ones paying attention to these rumors. These odds makers are. And if you ever suspect something's going to happen with a team getting a big time player, jump all over that. Sprinkle some money. It doesn't hurt if you're wrong. And this would have been an example where if you thought Freddie Freeman was a realistic possibility, I would say back in December when the first set of rumors came out and it was a very hot topic, I would have put some money on that then. Now it's hindsight's 50-50. It's easy to say that now, but just with any rumor or story that you think is going to happen, just jump all over it as soon as you can, because if you wait, sometimes you can wait and it's too late, as the odds makers are going to factor that in with their odds. So yeah, it does not surprise me that they've jumped all over this Freddie Freeman hype, and the Jays odds are very good right now. I mean, that is incredible how much they've jumped just overnight.
That opens an interesting can of worms there, Luca, because as someone who's kind of been in the position of putting out rumors and putting out reports out there, then you want to start talking about credibility and really digging into your sources and really getting into that, because as you know, there's a lot of rumors that fly around that are nowhere near accurate. They're kind of just put out there for whatever reason. Sometimes it's agents that want to get that stuff out there to inflate their I guess their value or their players' value, and or whatever it is. It's a funny game. And one example I can think of off the top of my head is the Andrea Bellotti rumors for Toronto FC. Over and over and over, I was told that those are not legitimate. I was trying to put that out there, but no matter what, it's a player like Andrea Bellotti that's going to create hype. Everyone's saying, oh my God, he might come to Toronto FC. People who don't follow the club as closely hear that, And that, I think, affects the market in some way because then you have more people betting on Toronto FC because they think this is a potential possibility. And it's funny how that works and how much that could affect the market. So if you're really good and you want to get really into the betting, just know your source, because sometimes you can see an inaccurate rumor, you can see where that rumor came from, and be like, okay, that's probably not going to happen. Maybe I can bet against that or take advantage of that, or vice versa. Maybe it's a player leaving a team or being on the trade market that potentially isn't going to happen. Little ways that you can kind of play the market there, but that's an interesting topic overall that
Yeah.
perhaps it's going to get even more interesting moving forward.
Yeah, definitely know your source. Like if you see a random report from a guy who's got like 10 Twitter followers, yeah, don't take any stock into that in terms of placing your bet. But if you see a credible name start to report on something like a Jeff Passan or an Adam Scheffner, et cetera, a Woj, yeah, put some stock into that, and that could very well influence your bet. So jump on that before the odds makers take note. All right, speaking of bets, let's get to our best bets for tonight. I'm on a 2-game skid. And I got to get back in the win column, man. I've not had a good last 2 games. I lost on the Leafs, and then Kentucky did not cover 7. They covered actually by 5. I hate
Oh,
that with some of these basketball games, man. When you got the winner and you're right there, and then they still don't cover. That's another hot topic of conversation that we could talk about for like a half hour. But anyways, what's your best bet tonight, Mike? As you sit 17-15.
yeah. So not a. I'm on a skid as well, man. I don't know what's going around right now. I think we need our NBA games back pretty badly, which they are back tonight. The Raptors are back tomorrow, of course, but I'm gonna stick to the pitch, man. I like betting on soccer. I like watching soccer. I think it makes it a lot more fun. And there's another appealing matchup tonight, and that's Barcelona and Napoli in the second leg of Europa League action. The first leg at Camp Nou at Barcelona Stadium ended 1-1, a match which really was dominated by Barcelona. But Napoli found a way to get that early goal and never really given too much, although Barcelona had a lot of chances to sort of take the lead, but they never did. So heading into this one, I think there is good value if you decide to choose either team. Napoli's sitting at plus 170 at home, by the way, and they're a very good home team. And Barcelona's at plus 155. So for me, I'm gonna take Barcelona here on the road to find a way to win on the money line at plus 155. I think this team is too good for this competition. I know haven't really had a good year, but I just think that they have that European experience and that pedigree, and I don't think Napoli definitely do. That's why it's such an enticing matchup. But I just think Barcelona has that edge. So at plus 155, I'm taking Barcelona on the money line here in the second leg.
I like it. A little Champions League action on a Thursday. Can't complain with that. Yeah, for mine, I'm going back to the well. I'm in desperate need of a win, so I'm going to go with one of the hottest teams in terms of covering the spread, and yeah, one of the safest bets I would say in all of basketball. And I'm going with the Grizzlies -2 on the road against the T-Wolves. Although this is going to be a very competitive game, do not underestimate the Timberwolves. I think they are going to make a push here to kind of solidify their playoff spot going into the playoffs. But yeah, the Grizzlies, they've had a ton of time to get healthy. They've had this time to rest. I think they're gonna start the second half of the season the way they started their first half, and that is just being a safe bet, covering the number, and being that explosive offensive team that can just put up points and defend as well as anybody. And John Morant, of course, there's going to be a lot of weight on his shoulders to keep up this hot play of the Grizzlies as they do head into the postseason. So I think they're going to start their second half of the season strong with a win, and it's only -2, so I'll lay that with the Grizz.
You like when you need a win, man. You like going back to the well there and picking your Memphis Grizzlies. Hey, they are the best team in the NBA this season so far at covering that spread, and only
Yep.
-2. I mean, that's money right there. Regardless of what happens, you can actually walk away from that bet knowing that you're comfortable placing that bet. It's one of those games that no matter what happens, like I said, it's a good bet. So I'm with you there, and we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, hopefully Mike and I can get back in the win column with some winners tonight. But that will conclude another great edition of Toronto Today here on the Parlay. You could catch this podcast wherever you find your favorite podcast. You could follow us all across our social media platforms. And Mike and I will be back tomorrow. We'll finally have some Raptors to talk about. They'll be back in action. And yeah, we'll see you then. Once again, thank you so much for listening and watching. And we'll catch you all again in tomorrow's show.